there, my friend. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, and I want to welcome you back to another episode here on the Fit Father Project podcast. In just a moment, you're going to hear a conversation between myself and one of our Fit Father program members, Dave Crawford. Dave is 56 years young, and over the past year, he's used our Fit Father program in conjunction with a Peloton bike and some other healthy changes he's made to lose over 45 pounds. What struck me as Dave shares his story that was very unique is Dave really took our program and adapted it to his own life. And the changes he made to lose that amount of weight, they weren't extreme. They were some simple things like making a sandwich for lunch, making sure he got exercise in the morning, no matter whether he was at home or vacation, and making some mindset shifts between what he calls the big things and the little things to be able to live a healthier life, to fly the kind of planes he wants to fly as a pilot, to be around for his daughter and to see her grow up and share all the memories with her and with his wife. I think you're going to love this conversation and some of the unique perspectives that Dave shares. So without further ado, let's get into this conversation today with Fit Father, Dave Crawford. All right, Dave, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. I'm super happy to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So to kick this off, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to everyone who's listening, your name, your age, where you're from, a little bit about your family and what you do for work, and then we'll get into your Fit Father story.
Oh, my name's Dave Crawford. I live in Northern Virginia. I'm 56 years old. I think probably feel older than I actually am some days. I'm married. I have a 20-year-old daughter who's a sophomore in college. So my role in life now is International Bank of Dad. My wife has been sort of with me on my journey. She's lost about 20 pounds along the way. And we got 4 cats, 1 dog. And right this minute upstairs, we have a foster mama cat with 4 kittens, and we've fostered cats over the last 5 or 6 years. So, sort of I turned out to be more of a cat person than I ever thought I would be. So, I been 35 years in the IT field. I currently support the federal government in a large cybersecurity program. My role is as an architect. So I live the technology dream all day, every day. I'm from everywhere and nowhere. I was a military brat, so I moved all over. So wherever I am is home. We recently moved to Northern Virginia after spending over 20 years living in North Carolina. So a little bit of an upheaval during the pandemic, and that's sort of part of the beginnings of thinking I needed to do something was the sitting at home during the pandemic and moving in the middle of it, and just those kinds of things.
Well, I mean, wonderful intro. Sounds like you have a busy house still. Daughter's out, lots of cats, and I thought it was funny. Before for those listening, before all the guys come onto the podcast, they fill a little bit of an intake form with some stuff, and you wrote that your wife had fostered over 80 kittens over the course of their life. And I told that to my wife. I'm like, this is incredible. 80 kittens. So anyways, that's a funny little aside. Let's get into what prompted you to take your health a little more seriously. What you mentioned was the pandemic. And also I imagine being in the IT architecture space, you're sitting on your butt all day looking at a screen, and that probably takes a toll. So bring me into the beginnings of your weight loss journey and what you start doing. And then we'll talk about how you transition to our Fit Father project.
So if we go way back in time, I was an athlete in high school, junior high school, and I was in the Army, Army ROTC commissioned. And when I was, 25 years old, I was in the best condition of my life, and I weighed, 155 if I was dripping wet. Mm-hmm. So that was 31 years ago. Somewhere along the way, about the time I got off of active duty, I hurt my knee, had knee surgery, nothing terrible, arthroscopic surgery. But basically at the point where I didn't have to do PT anymore, I didn't do PT anymore. And I, started the sedentary lifestyle and kind of got out of the things that I used to be in. And, the life checks in and, so on and go forward. So starting about 2018, company I worked for, we won a contract. I was living in North Carolina, and I became key on the contract. So I was here in the DC metro area 3 weeks a month for 2 years. And so I traveled in, stayed in a hotel. If I wasn't at the office, I was at the hotel. And so, you eating by yourself, or even in a group, you're eating by yourself. And, the entirety of my exercise was raising my, hand fork to my mouth, or elbow with a glass. And did that literally till the week before the world shut down in March of 2020. Right about that time, we decided I needed to move up here. So I'd signed a sales contract, but I was sitting on my butt. My wife and I had been talking a little bit, probably prior to maybe Christmas of 2020, that we needed to do something. I needed to do something. My doctor told me I needed to do something. I had high blood pressure. I got high cholesterol. I had all of the bits and pieces of this and that. And I weighed about 245. And you could, there's a picture which probably show up here somewhere, which is kind of the before and after, maybe not so much in my face, but I had the classic, beer belly looking guy, whatever. So thinking about what to do was, I needed to do something, and there's no easy way, there's no easy way out, right? There's no Staples easy button for this. But some paths are easier than others. And so the thing that I figured that I could do and was even willing to do was to try to do an indoor cycling. And so we decided to buy a Peloton. And so we bought one in April, which is where I kind of began the journey. And so 56 weeks ago, so I got my calendar when I started and watched the graph, all that. And I lost between April of 2021 and August of 2021. I lost about 15 pounds. Not crazy numbers, but not bad, and it was kind of progressive. But somewhere, and I honestly, I want to say that it was I won't say it's random, but for a Facebook ad, targeting whatever demographic I might fit in. Who knows? I'm sure there's a certain amount of things that when you're looking at doing your advertising, you have certain things you're interested in. But whatever it was, I saw an ad, and I kind of, I probably saw it more than one time. And so I went, and I eventually, sometime late July, August-ish, sometime or another, I took a look at it, and I had been considering that while I was making progress, I wasn't making as much progress as I wanted. And I needed to do something else. And I didn't know what the something else was. I talked to my doctor a little bit, and he suggested that I needed to do some dietary things or whatever. And so I want to think that what I got into was like the 7-day trial, or whatever, that beginning scenario with a meal plan and some other things like that. And I kind of peeled the onion a little bit and looked at that, took that approach. And I think I was successful-ish. And then, I came back for phase one. And I think there's a couple things going on there. One is, number one, you have to want to do it, and you have to commit to do it. One of those two is easier than the other, right? So I have desire, but I may not necessarily have the commitment, though I had more or less committed to the path on the bike. So I was, to even then, I ride about on average 30 minutes a day, maybe a little less. When I got in the Fit Father program in August, I incorporated some of the exercises. I've adjusted fire on that for timing and other considerations, and I'm readdressing it because now that I've seen, I basically, I think, for lack of a better word, I've gotten rid of all the easy weight, and now I'm in that I need to do some muscle building, retention, rebuilding. But I got committed to part of it, and then it was looking at the dietary considerations. And so I do the shakes and the protein shakes 4 days a week, maybe
for your breakfast,
maybe every couple of days, alternating. And also started looking at portion control and all the rest of that stuff. I mean, it's you got to set your mind to it, and so that's kind of how I got started. I'm not active in the Facebook group, but up through phase 3, one of the things that I think was important to me, even though I didn't necessarily always respond to it, was the accountability emails. Because I'd respond maybe twice a week, and I would, kind of look at the bullet points about things to talk about, and if there was some milestone that I had met, or as you talk about, kind of the non-scale victories, right?
Yep.
So the scale is the scale's there. It's a necessary evil, and but it's a tool. Yep. And you look at it, and now I look at it as a kind of a gauge of, I know within probably a pound or two, if I were to weigh myself tonight. Based on what I took in, within a pound or two, I'll know exactly what I'll wake up as. Yeah. And then I know based on that what the net weight's going to be after I get done with my exercise or whatever. So I've gone through that, and but that's how I got on the path. And between then and now, August till now, the path has been more or less direct, but not easy. And, as of right now today, I am about net 46 pounds down from where I started, and about, plus or minus 30 as I've been involved in the Fit Father Project program over the course of 56 weeks. And I would, the desire versus commitment is, it's a mental thing. And I had some reasons why I wanted to do it. I'm a private pilot, and there are some airplanes that I would like to fly that I could not fly previously because I was too heavy to get in the airplane. Or I couldn't fly that airplane with somebody else, even if I could get in the airplane. And so my, everybody has a little bit different motivation, but that was the kind of one of my motivations besides getting healthier. And, at my last lab work, all the cholesterol numbers, which were out of sequence, had flipped over. So the good versus bad ratio was correct now. The total was down, blood sugar was down, A1C is down, all that kind of stuff. So I'd say I'm baseline on the right path. Am I there yet? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but you're on the path for sure. I'm curious, when you started and you got the Peloton, which was a move, in my opinion, that made a lot of sense, because you knew you were sitting on your butt, and I have this big deficit in activity. This seems like something that's accessible, fun, easy on my joints. I can get into it, and that's good. Did you have the motivation in your mind at that time that you wanted to fly the planes, and was that on the top of mind, or was that something you discovered from the deeper?
Basically, sort of the scenario. I mean, there's a couple there's a couple that a friend of mine has access to some airplanes, and I was thinking I want to do that, but that was a kind of a, I don't know, a secondary goal of so if anybody out there's a pilot, right? Avgas weighs 6 pounds a gallon, right? It's lighter than water. So there's a running joke about, when you're losing weight is you want to, how many pounds of fuel can you displace? Yeah. Because there's an adage in aviation that you can never have too much fuel unless you're on fire. And one of the useless things in aviation is fuel you left behind. Well, I was flying, there's some airplanes out there that I would have to leave fuel behind so I could make the weight. And so that was the goal. But what the Peloton was we'd previously had a treadmill, and my wife used it, and I hated it with it to the fiber of my being. It's just counterintuitive and unnatural to me. I got on the bike, and it was hard work, and I was huffing and puffing and everything, and then it got better and better and better, and endurance and so on, and then we started going back to the office, albeit not as much then as now, but I started taking the stairs, and my office is on the 4th floor. We just moved from one building to another. My office is now on the 9th floor. And for those doing math, that is more than twice as many steps.
Yeah.
And so I, have been, but, yesterday I took this, I went up and down the stairs twice.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's the little things plus the big things. But the dietary stuff is that's an eye-opening experience.
That's what I want to talk about too. And you're right. It is the little things plus the big things. And the little things are done because of the mindset, right? I mean, taking the stairs is a little thing, but it's done because of the mindset of I'm trying to accumulate activity because I have these values and these goals of living healthier.
Right.
The big things is rearranging your approach to nutrition strategically every day. Meal timing. What do you have first thing in the morning? So give me a little bit like a side-by-side might be one way of like what you were doing before to what you changed when you got on FFP plan, or just describe kind of the ahas.
When I was doing the probably the point of reference that I have most, because I honestly, the whole 6-8 months, whatever it was during the pandemic, where we were in the process of getting ready to move and all the rest of that, I don't know, I lost track. But prior to that, right, I was on the road 3 weeks a month. So, my go-to thing in the morning was a venti quad shot, whatever, something, I think white mocha was my thing. I believe that's like 900 calories maybe.
Right.
And that was my start the day thing. Whatever sandwich or this or that at the cafe or deli, eat blah, 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 and then, eat at the hotel restaurant or eat out or whatever. And, a beer or two and a bourbon or two, and, all that stuff adds up.
Yep.
So going forward, when I started flashing forward to August of last year, I started looking at, as part of the plan, the program. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the thing that I got into it is that I was looking for, I knew I needed something more structured.
Yep.
Sure, you could probably make something up on your own, but I needed something that was a framework to work from. So started looking at the meal plans, and then portion control. So I do the one flavor, one recipe or another of the shakes with the vanilla, super fuel.
Yep.
And so that's my thing. At lunch, I switched over to Ezekiel bread.
Yep.
I started measuring out serving sizes, right? That kind of thing, and then getting a kind of like setting. I take my lunch now, so I don't go. I don't go out.
Yep.
And I have my my wife helps me out, and she makes sandwiches. I got my little bits and pieces, and then I have my 3 o'clock snack, and that kind of stuff. And then for dinner, it's honestly I eat more or less the things that I used to eat before, because there are things that I like, there are things that I'm not all that much of a fan of. And it's all about portion control. And whether we do the full, like divide your plate in, like your guidance,
perfect
divide
plate,
into quarters and all the rest of it. It's do something that's I almost want to say formulaic, right? So it's set the stage, figure it out. And it's really, I think, is more, as I've gotten time, I wouldn't say that I'm doing I don't know what they call it, the natural eating or whatever it is, or the intuitive eating or whatever. Yeah. You can't do that. I've got a scale. And so I measure out things I maybe don't get quite so crazy with the proteins as maybe I do with other things, but I measure those out, and the color of sadness, if sadness had a color, is what happens when you measure out a single serving size of pasta and then cook it.
Right.
But that's what happened. So I took the guidance. I got the meal plans, the timing. For 2-3 months maybe I did the intermittent fasting 1 day a week. I've kind of gone away from that, and I basically do a 1 day, 2 days, maybe 16-8.
Nice.
And adjust things. And so I think that has helped. But it's like, however long, the concept of however long it takes to go from an intention to a habit. I'm along the way on the habit side of things.
Yeah.
And so it's, I give consideration to what it is that is happening. If I'm going to go out to dinner, for whatever reason, I look at the choices. What do I order? That kind of thing. And so I'm it's all, we talked to small things, big things. It's at this point, it's a lot of little things adding up to measurable, demonstrable outcomes. But it isn't just the scale.
Yeah.
I feel better. I've got more energy, I think, more endurance, certainly, for the activities that I do have. I would hesitate to say that, my outlook has changed or anything like that, because I don't think I ever had, I'm not, it hasn't gotten worse. It hasn't gotten any better. It's, but I'm targeting, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, what you shared was very powerful. And I'd like to paraphrase just to really highlight a couple of the points I think were most profound. Is one, for you right now, having just the awareness that you now approach every day, awareness of portion size, going out now instead of just maybe ordering automatically, which you would have in the past. You just think about things at a deeper level because you have been working from a framework. And ultimately, like adding more awareness to this whole process is going to be what colors all your decisions into the future. And that's like the meta skill of this health game, you could say. And then two, the fact that you've kind of standardized a breakfast, a lunch, and a snack. And no longer are these things creeping in, like the 900 calories worth of sugar and caffeine in the morning with the sandwich. Like those things are devastating if you do that on a regular basis for the purpose of weight loss. But just by standardizing some of that, and I love that you said for dinner that you still eat some of the same stuff that you had before. Like, cool, perfect. But like portioned with some standardized meals, it obviously works to hit your calorie targets to gradually lose 30 to 45 pounds over the course of now, however many months.
I added some of the tools, right? So I actually saw something on YouTube the other day about, kind of some of the ways that you can make it easier on yourself is to, kind of play the numbers game, right? So I back in January I bought an Apple Watch, and it tells me I've set some goals about movement and exercise time and how many hours, how often I should stand and so on and so forth, and so I kind of look at that and I'm like, whoa, okay, I got to do something because I want to continue my streak, right? So so there's that. I added, I did my Fitness Pal. I don't do it religiously, but I did start measuring things to kind of get an idea about what my I'll say average calorie intake was as I started going through some of this. Against a kind of against the, your baseline, right? So that like maintenance thing, the whole issue of calorie deficit becomes kind of a challenge because a deficit from what? You got to have some kind of baseline. So, and I wouldn't say that I'm successful and maybe I'm, on the path to success, but I think a measure of my ability to maintain this process is, it was, daughter's in school, her spring break's over, blah, 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 whatever. My wife and I went to Florida for a week, 3 weeks ago. 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 3 I had every expectation that coming back from the trip that I would be off kilter, miss the mark, or whatever it is. I think two things kept that from happening. One is I did not break my exercise routine. So we're back to the treadmill because I didn't quite all have options, but I got up every morning at the same time, even though I'm on vacation. I got up on my schedule. I got up every morning and I went and did a 30-minute indoor walk on the treadmill.
Nice.
There were a couple of days we were out and about doing whatever. I went to an air show in Central Florida. That day I walked like 9 or 10 miles. And so there was that. And then I, intentionally ate. And we did old school. I was having flashbacks to being a kid. We packed a picnic lunch as we drove down to Florida and stopped in the rest area, had sandwiches, whatever it is. And we had portioned them out before we left. So it was, I had my, whatever my sandwich was going to be, that's what I did. So by maintaining the habit, even though I was out of my comfort zone, I came back and I was within a half a pound of what it was when I left. And in point of fact, I actually, a couple of days later, I set a new low on the way down. And so it's again, it's not the easy button or anything else like that, but it's far harder to do if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a map to your destination, wherever your destination is. And I set a goal in my mind to try to lose 50 pounds. Originally I was 50 pounds in a year. I have not quite made that, but I'm 46-ish plus or minus. So in a year and change. So I've lost, and that's a fair amount of weight. But in reality, it's like the non-scale victories, right? So it's 2 shirt sizes in the neck. It's 4 inches in the chest. It's 4 to 6 inches in the waist. Dress pants, it's 4. Jeans, believe it, I was shocked. I went from a 40 down to 34 in jeans.
Nice.
My wife, I got T-shirts and everything from years gone by. Depending on who makes the T-shirt, I've gone from 2XL down to a medium.
Wow.
And my wife is all kinds of excited because she gets to go buy me new clothes. The first time I'd, really had an opportunity to see somebody, after the pandemic sort of kind of unwound, as a coworker, we met him and his wife at a local winery for a sunset, whatever it is. I hadn't seen her since before we moved, and probably 8-9 months. And the first thing she commented on was how much weight have you lost? And I get that at work now. I have somebody told me that I need to change my profile picture in Teams or whatever, because it doesn't represent what my face used to look like. I mean, I was a jolly soul, right? So I had all those, and then there was one thing that I had never given any consideration about. My wedding ring almost fell off. And so I took that ring off. I'm wearing my dad's ring now, but it was literally the wedding ring that I had resized was slipping off my knuckle because I have had that much change. And I would have never in a million years. I mean, of the things that you would consider or not consider, that's not one of the things that I would ever thought about. But and to going, kind of give the credit for the program, I followed it to the extent that it worked for me within the framework. And some of the exercises were hard. Some of them were some of them were too hard physically. Some of them I'm like, what? I part of it is I've got a time budget. And I need to shake it up a little bit, but I kind of swapped things in and out. And recently, I've added something else because I got a young guy at the office who is young enough to be my son, who off the cuff one day said, "Hey, we ought to do 30 for 30." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? What are you 30 for 30?" So in March, he said, we need to walk a mile a day every day. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay. So in the last 2 months, starting in March and through today, I've walked more than a mile a day. Nice. Not count even withstanding the 8 miles or whatever it was down in Florida. When the weather permits, I get out and take a walk. There's a 20-minute walk around my neighborhood that is about a mile, and there's a 20-minute walk around the office that's about a mile. And until it gets the god-awful hot here in the summertime, I'm going to continue to try to do that. So I've added a little bit of piece, and that right there that's 20 minutes in my day that I am not on somebody else's call. Yep. I can be listening to some tunes. Maybe I listen to a podcast. Mostly I'm listening to Jimmy Buffett or Kenny Chesney or something. And I'm just walking, and I get my mind, whatever. But what I saw out and what I found in an intersection through the magic of technology and the ad, right, is that I found a little bit of that structure that I needed to give me a plan and a framework to move forward with. Because, if I had just continued on the way I was going, I probably, at this point, I would have lost 20 pounds instead of 45 pounds. And that's assumed, a lot of things being equal. But I read the mail. I won't say I look forward to them, but I get, the Sunday mail, periodically in the middle of the week, I read the blog entries. I watch the videos. If I'm sitting down in YouTube land, and I've got it in my subscription. So if there's sometimes it's like, I'll pay attention, and so it's part of my process. And like I said, the accountability emails were good. And you'd ask me if I'd interacted with Kat, and the answer is yes, because periodically I get the high five for the whatever, the victory of the moment or the day or the whatever, and the commenting, like I plateaued at some point, and there was well, here's this article, and I think I had mentioned that I was using the Peloton, and there's an article about substituting this version of HIIT training for that version of HIIT training. And so there was kind of that interaction that is, I think, invaluable in the sense that if you don't have it, you don't know what you're missing.
Well said.
And if you do have it, then it's sort of a backstop, right?
Yep.
But I look forward to, I see them, I pay attention. I'm interested. Like today was the 3 best or worst cooking oils or something. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I it was in my email waiting for me to talk about or watch the video. And, every once in a while there's some new recipes or something, and I have the smoothie cookbook laid out in a 3-ring binder that's next to my, I pull it out, and it's like sometimes I remember exactly what it is I'm going to do, and the other day I'm like, I'm going to do the chocolate peanut butter or whatever it was, and I couldn't remember the ratio of something, so I went back to the book, and sometimes you got to go back to the book.
Yeah, nice. I mean, so well said. And I appreciate you sharing what you did specifically, because I think there's a lot of guys that come on to the podcast and they're like, I followed this program to the letter, every exercise. And that was certainly not my intention in creating FitFollower 30X. It was to create a framework that every man could take and use as a starting point to build his own framework. And what's immensely clear to me from hearing you is you have Dave's plan. It happens to involve our FitFather smoothies. It happens to involve some structure of accountability and knowing we have your back. It involves the Peloton. It involves the through line of sandwiches and taking those no matter where you're at, and generally just making better choices, trying to walk more and be more active. And that's the plan that's going to work for you.
On the ground over here, I got my 12-pound weight. So some days I'm on a meeting, I don't have the camera on, but I do some squats, I do some stuff, and if I'm here, I'll do 10 reps of just some basic portion of one of the kind of the original, just as a get out of my chair when I'm here.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, haven't been in the military and otherwise, structure is structure, and that makes it works. And there, and so there's variances here. Like in some cases, like I couldn't do it because I didn't have the upper body strength anymore. And so like, I did, knee, my push-ups or whatever on my knees. And then I got a little bit better. And so that's kind of like I mentioned, I'm now at the point where I've gotten all the easy weight, and I'm now at the special K pinch part of things where I'm like, but I noticed that I have loss of, I don't have the muscle tension and, muscle volume. So I need to start working on that and, kind of tune up a little bit. Within the process. And it's my plan, but I fall back to, what's a good set of things to do. And then, the whole thing about what your body does, right, is until you press it, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you get into that stasis scenario, and you've got to change it up. Either you got to change the order of something, or you've got to change the weight or the number of reps, or you've got to do something. Otherwise, it's like, okay, cool, that we're going to do it. We'll do it in the exact same amount of time. Heart rate will get to this. It will not get any higher. It's not going to get any lower. We're going to meet right here. This is the thing, know. And so that's the way it seems to work. And it's worked for me. And my wife's lost about 20 pounds along the way, and I actually have said, hey, we need to check out the Fit Mother Project. And she's like, oh no, and I kind of joke with her about it because. It'd show up in YouTube or wherever, and but she takes it good naturedly. But I point out, it's like it's sort of been like a little bit of a team effort. But,
for sure.
It's you can't. No one's going to do it for you.
Yeah, you got to want it individually, even though you're supportive.
And I think, whatever it takes to get to the point of a habit or whatever it is, I'm far enough along now, 56, 58 weeks, whatever it is. I got a 56-week streak on the bike. I'm like, I've come this far. I don't want to go, I don't want to fall. I don't want to backslide. I mean, there's, and that's one of the things I think about the scale that you have to be really cautious about is because, when I started drinking the water, and I got I have other adult males in their mid 50s challenges, right? So too much water, blah, 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 blah. So I, kind of staggered that, but even if you do everything exactly the way you have intended to do it, you can still have a 3-4 pound swing in 2 days in either direction, and come back to something. And if you use if you see the swing up as a negative, and it becomes disincentive, or you feel like you're not successful at it, and because you're chasing the needle, that's gonna that's gonna become a psychological barrier to things, because then you're like, okay, well, then you gotta go through this whole spiel of, but what did I eat, and where did I go, and what did I do? Maybe it was you were out with some buddies, and you hadn't seen them in a year and a half, and yes, there was a small pizza in front of you, and you put it all away. I'm not saying that that's happened. I wouldn't even say it happened last week, but it could happen to somebody. Or fries can be, fries can be addictive, right? And chips. The thing about it is, you start eating a bag of chips. Well, if you don't do that, back in the day when my comfort food was a jar of peanut butter and a spoon. There's peanut butter in my house, and it gets used for appropriate purposes, but it no longer, winds up downstairs next to me while I'm watching a football game or whatever, doing that. So, I mean, I would say if somebody's out there looking for structure and you've seen every one of the, all kinds of, every program that there is out there, and the YouTubers of this and that, and the fitness influencers and all the rest of that, you could do far worse than just taking the step of going to FitFather and taking a look at that go through the basics. Even if you didn't need to do farther than that, if you stayed with that, you're better off than you are today, not doing anything without any structure. And if you get involved, if you need more support and you want to get in the Facebook group and all that kind of stuff, then maybe that's for you. It's not for, not everything is for everybody, but having some kind of a framework that you can build on is so much more valuable than trying to just think of the this or that or go seek out this advice from wherever. And even if you're just doing it passively, right? Go look at see what, the content that you put out, and look at the website and see these things. There's a pattern that will emerge as you look at it. And, if you can get into an accountability space, then that's the way to go. And, measure things in small victories. I mean, that's the thing. Because I didn't notice. I mean, the scale tells you something, but I didn't notice some of the things that other people were seeing. And the first time that it really occurred to me that I had lost more weight, a significant amount of weight that made a difference, was I love to work, summertime wearing cargo shorts or whatever it is. My wife said, "You're not leaving the house wearing those cargo shorts." I'm like, "Well, why?" And she points me in the mirror, and I'd like bunched, I'd like to tighten the belt up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but it didn't occur to me because I didn't, you don't look at, maybe some people do, but up until that point, I didn't look at myself that way, right? That's not the observation that I had of me. I do know in the past that I'm like, don't take a profile picture of me, because my profile was not attractive to me. Today, cool. Have at
nice.
it. I'll do the GQ thing up against the whatever. So, I mean, and so it's mental, it's physical, it's action. You've got to take, meet yourself. First, you got to meet yourself where you are. You can't go, you can't get somewhere else until you start at the very beginning. But where the beginning is you have to recognize what that is. And I was in this state where I changed location. So I had the same general practitioner, family practice doctor for 15 years. And I had talked to him, and I talked to him, and I talked to him, and he commented, for a while, my weight was very stable. And then he noticed that my weight started going up. So now I moved up here. I got a new doctor, never seen me before. So all he sees is the high side. He didn't see the trend. And so I wasn't even paying attention to the trend, but clearly somewhere between the end, end of my travel, or the beginning, toward that last end and the move, the pandemic and everything, I kind of moved up, because I don't know when I got to 245. I have no idea, but I can tell you when I got to 195, and that was yesterday.
Congratulations on that. That's absolutely brilliant.
But that's sort of how I got here. I mean, I would say that, particularly the last 4 months, or 8 months rather, because let's say I've lost 45 pounds. 2/3 of that has been in the 8 months that I've been associated with FitFather, and the kind of the tipping point or whatever, where I kind of crossed a big psychological barrier, right? It was 200 pounds was about the 1st of February. And when I crossed, so that would be 25-ish pounds about 25 pounds on the program. But that was 5 months in, right? And it was slowly. And I'd get down there and it was like, 204. And then second week or so, first week of February, 18 straight weeks now below 200. Yeah. And down, so it is a journey, not a destination. I mean, this is like, maybe there is a destination. And, when I set my idea of, losing 50, that's down to 190.
Yep.
Could I get down to 180? I probably have room to get down to 180, but I wonder I'm not going to say at what cost, but at what level of effort.
Sure.
And then the maintenance, at that point, the maintenance becomes, I think, very challenging.
We'll see where you land, right? I mean, it could find that like 195, 190 is the nice intersection between I can very easily maintain this. My health numbers are great when I go to doctor checkup. I feel fantastic and I can sustain this. Yeah, possibly. I'll tell you this, just as a little bit of unsolicited advice based on your goals. Is the muscle building routine in phase 2 with the dumbbells, I think would serve you well, like the Monroe and Kennedy. I think they'd be good, pretty joint friendly, awesome. And if you do throw back in those 24-hour fasts, I think that will be probably one of the biggest tools, just like metabolically speaking, that'll help you shave some extra weight. Now, whether or not that's something that's joyful enough for you to sustain, that's another question. The answer may be no for you, but I'll tell you, it will help the fat loss and.
I think I'm close to what I think is a maintainable scenario, because it's it used to be these fair you could, like, if you were watching the this, and now it's like that, and it's within a the range within a week is about is plus or minus a pound, and that's Is it easy? No. But is it maintainable without a crazy amount of effort, without, the mental gymnastics of what did I eat? What should I eat? Yes. And, the fact that I feel like I can go out, sit down with my wife, go out, eat dinner at a restaurant. The other day, honest God, I had lunch and we went out and had ice cream for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
It was a gorgeous summer day here. I'm like, the end of the day, forget the calorie count and all the rest of that.
Totally.
I didn't go overboard. I had a reasonable portion, but it was a good, it was a splurge kind of thing. And I didn't feel guilty about it. And, I didn't have a negative event on the scale to cause me to panic. So, I mean, it's, I appreciate the program, but I think it found me at the same time I was searching for something, it turns out probably to be, that was the right place at the right time for the path I was on, and the path I needed to be on to meet some of the goals that I had, even if I hadn't formed those goals yet. Because part of this is like, you can sit down and say, I have an intention, but what does that mean exactly? And I had this concrete goal, but it hasn't manifested itself yet. I haven't been near it. I've literally not been near an airplane for a year. And there's a reason for that. And the primary reason is, and this is, there's other hobbies or whatever it is that I simply could not do it enough to be proficient or to be safe. And I spent a lot of time in search and rescue and on the search end of people who had, something bad had happened. I didn't want to be that guy. And until I can get back to the point where I can be proficient, I'm probably going to keep my wings nice, hung up over there and take them down at some point. But in order for me to do some of the things I want to do in there and fly the type of airplane I want to fly, like get back into a J3 Cub, which was, built in the 40s for people who are not not our size, right? The 40s human and the 2022's human adults are not the same size. But, you got to set an intention, whatever that intention is. If it's, dance at your daughter's wedding and you want to get a new tux and you want to look good while you're doing it, or you want to do whatever it is, or whatever that thing is, you got to have a goal, and the joke in management, right, is that which you don't measure can't be managed. But if you don't measure it, you don't know. So that's where you are. Well, where I am, where I was, where I'm going, I don't know.
Yeah, all the above for sure. Yeah. And I want to appreciate you for coming on and sharing insight. I gleaned a lot from this, and I definitely learned a lot about you and your life. And I wish for you that you get into the J3 Cup, and that happens for you in the next couple of years, that you hit the 50-pound weight loss goal. And I also wish for everyone who's listening to this that they've taken a couple nuggets of wisdom that you figured out through your own life experience, and they apply that, and they develop their own program, and they start to lose some weight and feel better. Thanks for coming on, Dave. I really appreciate you sharing your story.
I appreciate it. I got the email asking me. I mean, I immediately responded immediately. Because it's been very positive for me. And I could probably could make more of it than I have, but I have made as much from it as was right at the time, and the time is evolving. So I appreciate I appreciate the efforts. I appreciate the philosophy, and the background, right? So my father passed away a couple of years ago. He was in his 80s, but he had some endemic health problems that came up when he was in his mid 30s, which meant that he was not in the position to be that physical guy with me at the time when I was at that point of, going through athletics and all the rest of that. And so, I'm hoping, obviously to be around for grandkids and all the rest of that. And, in order to do that, I'm taking as much action as I can to make it so that I'm as healthy as I can be within the ballpark. So the philosophy of the program, your personal philosophy and the background of how you got here, is meaningful. It's meaningful to me. I see it, and the, having you make that argument or the case about why you have done this as opposed to any of the other things that you might do within your academic and other backgrounds is, I think it's extremely, it's extremely valuable, and I think it's important. It's making a difference for somebody. And it's made a difference. It's made a difference for me. Whether it makes a difference for somebody else or not, that's between them and you, or between some other group of people and you. But for me, I appreciate the program and what it stands for, what it means.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate the appreciation, and it makes a difference to me that it made a difference to you. And I appreciate you coming on today.